So we are currently live. We'll see how many people we get tonight. We get uh we get respectable hits on YouTube. I mean, not like in the thousands or anything, but let me see. Let me
Hey,
look on
traffic
this.
is traffic, you know?
Oh,
Yeah,
hi,
if you're watching this live, you can rewatch these VODs at, what's your YouTube channel, George?
At Brewhammer.
At
Brewhammer.
Brewhammer, yeah. Like we still haven't topped our all-time high of 144 YouTube views. That was for number 3. That was for issue 3. But I don't know. The last one we did only got 3. Before that one, number 13 got 10. That was the first part of y'all's fight against the Civil Defense Force.
They don't seem very civil to me, but that's, matter of
They are
opinion, I
very
guess.
defensive.
All right, I'm going to get up and use the restroom. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Remember, you're live, so be polite.
Yeah, of course. We're always polite, George.
No fighting, no cursing. Well, maybe
No, never.
maybe moderate
Never.
cursing. It's fine. All right, I'll be right back.
All right. Tonight's stream is brought to you by The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5.
I heard that. Stop it.
Thank you, Sony.
Good game.
I missed my microphone.
Yeah, we got a new setup in the new apartment, and we're using one microphone, the ASMR style. We're on either side of it.
Yeah, and Alex will move it over so it'd be closer to his face because he's used to that. And I'm like, dude, no one can hear me because it's too far away.
We'll get it going.
Okay, you're coming through pretty clear tonight, so
a long ass desk, and you just be on your side. You just have 2 mics.
Yes.
You get it to work though. It's fun. Oh my gosh, all these sessions on here. So we have everything from basically the beginning of this year on Hammer. So we have Annals of Levis, Heretic King stuff, all of Hawthorne round 2.
oh, that was fun.
He's also got the stars out number stuff, whatever paranoia is. But yeah, always fun.
Remember, chat, you can always rewatch our sessions on Brewhammer and also go back to other things. When we played Call of Cthulhu.
We got that coming up. We got Star Wars. We got eventually Vampire the Masquerade. That's gonna be fun.
We have your one shot coming up, Alex.
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
as well, which
I'm excited about that. I'm back, by the way.
We get to feature George as a player.
Yes, we get to feature George as a player. I just made. I just put Kelsey's character down, Rebel.
And back.
2 more characters. Hello.
I tell you about that World of Darkness, though. The more I read about that, the more I'm like, I'm throwing half these rules out.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Are you reading the new stuff, like the one that just came out, relative?
I don't think
Or
I
like
have the. I'm going off like the storyteller or the main book, the Storyteller's Guide and the Player's Guide.
Got
But
it.
I mean, there's some stuff in the Storyteller's Guide. I'm like, dude, this is too in the weeds. Where you've got rules for, oh, here's your coterie and here's your coterie merits and your coterie, and I'm like, no, stop, no, what? This should be story driven. What's happening? So yeah, a lot of this stuff I'm just gonna throw out half of it, just keep the core stuff.
Yeah,
Sure, why not?
I probably should have looked at the rules before saying I'm going to run a World of Darkness one shot, but
Would be recommended, but
Yeah,
it'll
work out.
yeah,
It works best as a DM to just not have read the source material at all.
yeah,
right? Yeah.
that's pretty common.
That's how Marvel writes movies.
There we go.
They do. They go out of their way sometimes to hire some. They're like, well, we wanted to make sure we had a fresh perspective, fresh voice, yada yada. So we went and got this writer. Literally, no one has ever heard of that did this thing no one saw, but we like what we saw. I mean, literally, they do that. They've done. Michael, back me up on this.
Yeah, because
I have heard that before. Yeah.
Because what they're doing it, because the way they did this is it's kind of like with Feige in order to produce these things, they kind of did a version of the Marvel method with the movies, in that we got here's a bunch of scenes like storyboard and stuff that we want to do, right? And then they write the script to work around those scenes,
And that's
and
not
then they
bad. I mean, like
no.
per se is an
if you're
idea.
doing like maybe one or two films a year or something,
but have
then
it-
you're like, oh, but then you
have an idea though of who these people are and their history.
mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely helps.
Anytime they do that, they talk about that kind of thing in pre-production, or marketing. Well, we knew we wanted somebody who wasn't familiar with the source material at all. I always wince and I'm like, oh, that's a bad.
And
that's
it's
a red
very
flag.
strange because there's so much source material. You can literally just pick and choose the best pieces of it. You can just pick the best. A lot of comics are just okay. That's a fact. Just pick the best ones and use those storylines or use those themes.
I remember
Well,
when.
I think
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, I think it was Brian Singer. He basically, I think, one time when he was doing X-Men films, he was like, "Oh, I don't want want the actors reading the X-Men comic books because you may influence their performances."
It should
And I
influence
think it
their
might have been-
performance.
For the
And I
better,
think it
yeah.
was- I think it might have been Feige or somebody else was on the set, like, well, sneaking in the comics themselves to the different actors, like, here you go, yeah, just go base it off of this.
That's like, imagine they're like, we're taking this calculus test, but we don't want you to read the calculus textbook because it might influence your answers.
I remember
Yeah.
Heath Ledger when he played the Joker, which is my least favorite Joker of all time, by the way.
Worse than Leto?
It's a different Joker.
I
And
mean,
also,
Leto's up there. Leto's awful.
I was about to say, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the problem is that he was.
Yeah.
But continue, George. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Well, let Alex finish his thought. What were you saying, Alex?
So I love the Heath Ledger Joker, but I will be the first to admit that the dynamic was always pretty different prior to that point. And after Heath Ledger, now every Joker has a little bit of like, well, I can't kill you because we're fated to do this forever and ever and ever. When back in my day during animated series, yeah, he was trying to kill him all the time. Like,
There was one moment in the Batman comics where there was a guy named Hugo Strange who was also in the animated series.
mm-hmm.
Um,
And
And-
Arkham City.
and Hugo Strange, everybody thought that Hugo Strange actually killed Batman at one point, and Joker went after Hugo Strange because Joker was like,
Right.
"Nah, only I get to do that. You've got to go. Sorry."
Mhm.
And that was actually an interesting take. I actually believe the Joker would stop somebody from murdering Batman just because the Joker wants to do it himself.
I remember there was
Well,
recent.
it's like that one.
Go ahead.
It's like that one episode in the one with about the guy what was it the guy who was like say who thinks that I killed Batman, and then
Sid the Squid. Wasn't that his name? No,
Sid
he
the
was.
Squid.
Yeah, that was him. I remember that one.
Yeah, yeah. And he was just like it was Ed Begley Jr. He was just like an accountant.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
And
It was
then
just
the
like,
Jo-
you know,
and then
yeah.
the
No
Joker's
criminal
like,
mastermind.
We're gonna hold a funeral for the guy for Batman. He says, and we're gonna do it by putting that gut. We're gonna put it in
Yeah.
that coffin right there and ship it in the
And
vat
drop it in
there.
that vat of acid there. Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember that because towards the end of it, like they were somewhere. I think that was when they were in a smelter or some kind of factory. That's every episode, by the way. And I
Well, there is in
remember,
Gotham.
I remember because Sid the Squid, Joker was terrified of this guy now because he thought he killed Batman, and he thought this guy was coming after him, and then he realized Batman was alive and was trying to save him, but Batman got separated from separated from them somehow, and Sid the Squid was still going after Joker, and Joker was like, Batman! He was calling for Batman to come save him. That was hysterical. All right, but no, the reason I don't like the Ledger Joker is, and this always astonished me because he won an Academy Award for it. After he
I think
was
that was probably largely influenced by the fact that he
but
passed away.
but he was talking in an interview before the movie was released, and he was like, DC gave me like a whole stack of like big Joker stories and important Joker stories, and I just threw them away. I didn't read any of them. And then he said he basically just like aped somebody else, like copied somebody else's performance on something else. And
Which
he was
is
like,
a weird way to go after an established character.
and
but,
he's like, so I just
I'm
imitated
not an actor.
this guy from this movie, and I was like, oh well, so long as you tried, right? But no, my thing about the Ledger
Well,
Joker is because the Ledger Joker looked like he was homeless and woke up every morning and combed
Mhm.
his hair with buttered toast. He
It was
didn't. He didn't.
not an attractive.
He did
Yeah,
not have the
Well-
style that Joker did.
it's true. He didn't rock the purple suit like the other Jokers.
And
Well, I mean, the guy who had, in terms of cinematic, the guy who actually looks like the Joker from the comics was probably Jack Nicholson, but the best voice is still
well, no,
gonna be
the
Mark
best
Hamill.
voice, the best overall performance is Mark
It's
Hamill,
Hamill.
easily.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah,
but
hands down.
Nicholson is as close as we've come to a proper Joker on screen.
Yeah. Although it is funny that because I mean, then of course you hear the debate now because of course because with Heath Ledger and now Joaquin Phoenix because they both won Academy Awards for playing the Joker. But if you look at the characters, they're totally different
I
characters.
mean, I
that
like
they
that movie,
come
but
across.
I remember telling friends, I was like, this isn't really a joke. This isn't really a Batman Joker movie. This is. I
No,
mean, this
no,
is Joker like in a What If comic or a Elseworlds
yeah.
It was a good
I mean,
story, but yeah, it did feel a bit removed from.
yeah, you could technically, you can even title it something different. I mean, they only put a Joker on it because it's like, oh, because you could literally change the names of all the different characters in that, and you don't have to tie it to
Yeah.
the like Batman and stuff, and it would still be like, yeah, it's still a story about a guy who is, yeah, it's like partly made money because it's like, hey, it's got Joker on the name of it, but it's still a good movie, but it's disturbing and everything like this. But
I
it's
liked
not
it when he went
really
on Tonight Show and shot Robert De Niro.
Yeah, that
right.
was.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
it's like
famous GIF I always see from that. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I howled. I was like, ooh, this is great. Anyway, so we have a superhero game to play.
Oh yeah.
So anybody watching on YouTube, let me apologize. We've missed a few weeks due to other events and a little bit of downtime on my part because I've had some back issues. But we are back tonight, ready for another thrilling. Is that a good adjective?
yes.
For
I'll pull up my thesaurus. It checks out.
so let me text our largest fan, our biggest fan. Let her know we're on. She gets cross if I don't.
Yes, where is mom? that's our most important fan, your mom.
Well, she
I
doesn't.
wholeheartely agree.
She doesn't
Does have
always
a
get to.
stipend in there saying, "Hey, only text when you guys are about to actually start."
Yeah, yeah. If I text her
Damn.
any other time, she's like, "F off." No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Are you playing? No, fuck off.
All right. So,
So let's hope she hasn't started watching yet.
who wants to give us a? Whose turn is it for the recap this week?
I think it's my turn.
It is your turn.
All right.
My turn this time.
All right, Lazarus, take us to it.
Well, last session we were just about to. Sorry, we were just about finishing after the engagement with the Civil Defense Force. It was mostly with kind of handling the aftermath of our civil disobedience of refusing to sign that lease, and the Civil Defense Force opened fire on us. A lot of fighting continued on, and some of the major points were them using tanks and helicopters.
Things escalated.
Things did escalate.
Things escalated.
Quite a bit. There was
Mistakes were made.
military usage in there, and tasked with quite possibly getting flamethrowered in. Lazarus made a tough call and threw one of the heavy mechs into the helicopter blades of the helicopter, taking out both in the process. Definitely looking negative on the humans of the future, but Lazarus decided that the lives of his friends here are worth it more than the image, so he made that call. After, of course, the fight, though, we had some conversation regards to that option, and in the future, the party has decided that we're going to refrain from doing that to the absolute max we can do. Lazarus hesitantly agreed, though his personal feelings hang in the fact that this is a war. Um, the
Yes, and we know that there's already been a casualty in this war
Yes, there's already been a
because
loss of life on the Omni-Human side at one of the other teams. Um, but Lazarus trusts his team. There's a reason they got him all together. It's because he wants people to rely on that aren't just him. So.
yeah, and unfortunately, yeah, you guys found out from the news that one of the vigilance team members, that's Pioneer's team,
Hmm.
was killed. That would be Dynamo,
Goodness.
and the video of her death now is played, on screens for the last several days, um, along with some other bits that we'll get to. But she was actually flying up about 100 feet in the air, was trying to dodge one of those attack helicopters firing at her
Hmm.
when she got hit by one of those suppression weapons, and so she plummeted out of the sky. So it literally it robbed her of her powers, including her flight, and then knocked her out for one round. And she just, 1 minute she's flying, and the next minute she's just arcing down until she falls 100 feet to her death.
Goodness.
But another bit of footage that has come from the fight was released by the government, where they
Hmm.
had camera footage and audio footage of Lazarus's rageful speech after he had thrown one of the suppression troops, one of the big armored mech dudes, into the helicopter, killing 3 people. About
Hmm.
it's war, and making the separation between omnis and humans,
Hmm.
and that has not played well with the public in the 4 days since it's happened. Um, oh wait, no, that's too soon. There we go. So you're at the headquarters. Um, you have agreed to come to an interview with Channel 7 Action News that will be carried live, just due to the fact that it's speaking for publicly to the first time for the first time.
Hmm.
And she's already told you she doesn't want to, she has a good working relationship with you guys that she doesn't want to jeopardize. So she's giving you a heads up. She's like, I'm going to have to ask you about this because people want to know about it.
Hmm.
But she also frames it as a way for you to kind of, try to smooth it over a little bit. So, as you're all gathered around this morning, on every major news network, they're having the funeral for Dynamo.
That's good to
Um,
hear.
and, Pioneer already spoke ahead of time and was like, if any CDF goons try to jump us while we're trying to bury our friend, it's not going to go well for them.
Hmm.
The public right now in polling is split, but they're not split 2 ways, they're split 3 ways. You have one faction, one group of the public that thinks the president and the Congress went too far, and they actually support the omnihumans. You have another group that is terrified of everything going on, and they support the government, and they are anti-omni. But you have another group who is sort of like, maybe they're all wrong, or maybe they're both wrong. Maybe they're all just terrible. And so, but these people are also fairly non-committal.
Hmm.
And it sort of mirrors how the colonies were when they went to war with Great Britain. Not everybody in the colonies wanted to war with Great Britain. Some people were loyalists to Britain and wanted a reconciliation. And so the country was split kind of in the same way. There
Yeah.
were people that wanted to fight and wanted to be free. There were people that didn't. They still wanted to be British citizens, and there was another third that didn't care. They just wanted to make money and take care of their families.
Yeah, they just wanted like, hey, we're living out here near the frontier and everything like this. We're not gonna we don't what we it's this is
Yeah,
not
you had a
really
third of
our
the people
vibe
who were
right
like,
now.
"There's like, dude, I got Indians trying to burn my farm every other week.
Yep.
What? I've
Yeah.
got my own things going on.
Or they were like that guy, I think it was like Mel Gibson's character in Patriot. He's like, look, I don't want, even though I disagree with what's going on with the British, it's like I don't want to get involved with any kind of fight at all. Just leave,
Yeah.
let me just stay at my ranch, kind of thing.
Ah,
And
the
it's like,
Jackie Chan response. That's always how you get directly into the middle of things. I don't want no
yeah,
trouble. That's how trouble finds you.
oh yeah, yeah.
So, um, you're all gathered around watching the footage of Dynamo's funeral. Um, Scripture, you had actually got to talk to her a little bit
Yeah.
when you guys were, when they came over to the Heyman Tower at that one time. How does this make you feel?
I feel like it's tragic loss of life that should never have happened, and that change needs to be made. Do I know how and what change? Not yet. I feel like we made mistakes, and I feel like the government made major mistakes.
Okay.
I feel sad and that we lost a person in our lives.
Okay. Now, there's been other developments in the last several days also that have unfurled. Um, three of Pioneer's team members, and remember their vigilance, they're in New York, and that would be Masher, Patriot, and Warwolf, kind of went on a tear after the death of their friend and teammate Dynamo. And they have been actively hunting down CDF personnel, troops, and vehicles anytime that they see them. They've kind of been on a route of like the tri-state area. That for those of you who don't know, up in New York, that would be New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Basically, just whooping any vehicle they see. And
It's also New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
yeah, so they've kind of been on their own little war against the CDF for a little while. Pioneer kind of jokingly says, "Well, I kind of they kind of went rogue there. I lost control of them." But I don't know. Did he? Or did maybe he say, "Hey, you three, if you want to work out some aggression, why don't you take out some of these things?" So tempers are fraying like rope right now, and everybody's on edge. It's a somber moment in the country. Now, a lot of the public in the polling data, and this is something that Gail has pointed out, Dynamo dying, while tragic, also helped to cement support for the Omnihumans. Uh, she was actually a very popular hero in New York and was also nationally known. She did, some marketing things and different ads at different times that went national. She was known, right? And seeing her die, especially in that way, with the footage, has really kind of soured the public on the whole CDF thing and the whole registry thing. So, Lazarus, you have to go do an interview later today, and the rest of the team knows that. Is there anything you guys want to discuss?
Yes. So I wanted to get your guys' input on going about this topic. Obviously, the elephant in the room is going to be, is this use of force warranted? Um, want to get your guys' feel on this. Mostly, what I want to say is yes, but I'm going to say no because, you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the team, not just myself. Um, do you think I should just go with a straight apology, or should I go with, or should I try and throw the blame back at the military? I don't know if an apology is really going to win us.
I feel like apologizing for the lives that were lost is important, but also stating that the government did wrongs too, and we felt like our lives were threatened just as much because they were trying to kill us. You went a little crazy there for a minute, but that's because your life was threatened. I am sorry to the families that have lost someone, and I'm sorry to the people who have been killed because of this. But also our lives were threatened. What was I supposed to do?
That actually brings on the family of people who of that mech heavy mech guy.
I don't know what to do with that, buddy.
Yeah, no.
Under any legal um under any legal jurisprudence, we were acting under self defense.
Yeah.
That is I mean, if any court any if this ever got to any kind of court of law, if it just got any court of law, we would have a just you would I believe we would have a justifiable case. You would, I mean, essentially, I mean, you we could also argue that we have tried other avenues, have tried the avenues,
Mhm.
negotiation. They refuse to listen to this.
And our civil disobedience was met with military force.
Yes, and
Alright.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to compare this to, say, the Boston Tea Party, because in that regard, it was the British troops who said that they acted under self-defense compared to to the fellow citizens. In this case, it's the reverse. We could argue that we are, even like it or not, you are citizens of these United States. And
Mhm.
yet you have, essentially, when you have an armed military presence essentially acting. That's the other thing that's curious about this. Um, why were none of the civil consummatory, the local consummatory, involved in this action? Rather, it was a military action. I
Well,
thought, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of enforcing any kind of law or jurisprudence handed with the civil authority, not the military authority.
this would be involved with a federal crime, like
Yeah, the
the state
Omni-Human
is the one
Security Act changed a
signing
lot.
who's signing.
Yes, but then where was your? I mean, don't you have a? Isn't there an agency involved that I think was called the Federal Bureau of Investigation of some sort? They were not around,
And
so I guess what they just created this whole. They just created this. You're saying this act created just a completely new law enforcement agency just on the spot. Then.
You should look up the Patriot Act. That
Mm.
might help add a little details to that.
yeah, Lazarus,
Yeah.
your understanding of it is it kind of became like almost like a martial law light kind of a situation. And they were hoping people would come and register, and when they didn't, then that trip, well, you're under arrest and we're coming to get you. And at that point, like if you guys were to go to court, a court would be like, well, technically you're in violation of the law. And while yes, they attacked you, they were executing the law. You don't have, like, if the cops break down your door to arrest you, you don't have a right to defend yourself. You see what I mean?
Mm. Mm.
It's sort of that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to remember that what is legal and what is morally correct are two different things.
Yes.
I'll say that in character as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So while you guys are discussing it, you see in the middle of the room, up in the hologram area, you see Dr. Droid. And he comes in and says, Lazarus, I must make you aware of something.
Yeah, sure. So,
If you recall, the forces that attacked you had a insignia that they were wearing, in addition to the U.S. flag that all U.S. servicemen would normally wear.
yeah.
And it said rain, and it had a planet surrounded by stars.
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered more of this rain, and it is not good. This, if I were a living mortal living in this country, would terrify me.
In what regard? Please explain.
Let's see it.
And he starts showing you files that look like they come from a state department database, and he starts to unfurl and narrate how there is a plan in motion. It involves the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, and large corporations, several dozens of large corporations, and investment groups like Blackguard and or Vanguard and BlackRock, things like that.
Goodness.
But he starts to show you how they're pushing for AI, and they've been behind people buying up farmland all over the country, and that's something that's actually happening today, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And he shows you how they're trying to build a totalitarian one world government.
Oh God.
And their plan, because with the onset of AI reaching into almost everything, which is weird because you have so many people saying, yeah, this is dangerous, it could wind up killing us, but hey, let's keep pushing forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um, how they're going to encourage the growth of AI, and they're also going to encourage people getting microchipped, people accessing the AI, all in a giant collected network. And how they're going to sell it to the public. They're going to sell it through movies and books about, oh, hey, look how great it is to be plugged into this AI. I feel superhuman, like it's this thing that, you just can't live without, like your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the populace, as he's explaining it to you, you start putting it together in your head, Lazarus. You know that was something with that. Anybody that's jacked into that thing could basically just, in a way of saying it, have their hard drive reprogrammed.
Mm-hmm.
And
They could have a consciousness transfer.
they could, but they could also just turn everyone who's jacked into the AI cloud, just become a drone that doesn't think for itself. They could literally make the population of Earth submissive to whatever they wanted to do.
Holy shit.
Gosh, punch a few more helicopters, it seems.
Yeah, at this point. Oh my god. This.
Is there any particular people that are part of this that we encountered before? Anyone we would know, like that are directly involved with this?
And you see him like look to the side like he's accessing different files. He goes, "Well, you have a list of the corrupt congressmen from the House and the Senate, and you have the information about all of the international payments that were going to special groups, special interest groups, and also the president." And he looks at you, the holographic form of Dr. Droid looks at you, Dr. Hope, and says, the president is directly related, as are the heads of Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Germany, France. And, he just starts listing like Western countries, well, with the exception of Japan.
The New Zealanders. I know it.
Damn.
Alright. Well, this American populace, like, I already had ideas that, stuff was being run in the background, but this is like, I don't know if we can even leak this.
This
This is a little too big.
Everyone say hi to Barrymore in chat.
Hey,
Hello,
Barrymore.
Barrymore.
Glad to have you.
woo woo
I
for
just find it curious. I just find it curious with these different governments who have such different ways of governance would go along with something like this. That
Power.
they would all be on the same. They would all be on the same. That they would all be on the same
How
set.
much?
Mind. That no, that there would be. There
power.
would be. Well, there,
Equation. It's a path that leads those in power to greater power.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely,
absolutely.
is the old
Yes.
saying. And these heads of state, they're politicians. Their interests don't lie with what's good for the people. They are wholly invested in their own self-interest, their own worth, their own power base.
Mm-hmm.
Something like this will consolidate that power base. Imagine a politician who has the power to quell unrest or any dissenting voice just with the push of a button.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's quite obvious those CDF armored suits weren't made to fight omni-humans. The development cycle on that would take far too long.
We were just a happy accident in their
They didn't even have
eyes.
They didn't even have time to change the decals.
Well,
I think during this interview, Dr. Hope, you should point that out. That way, more people start asking questions.
I definitely agree on that. Bringing further attention to this organization should be our priority, because when we are making uh, you know these claims, this is just a little too much. It's a little too alien for everybody. I think starting small and getting any media that can possibly look at these icons and say, hey, who are these guys, and all that. Um, Most of this stuff will probably be kind of censored because it's media, but if we get enough people answering questions, then we can do that. We might be able to do another drop on uh, my phone service.
There's
And
only
he
so
have
many
and then
times that tactic will work.
and he
Yeah,
looks at
I
you.
don't think it'll work many times. I think it should be safe for emergencies.
He looks at you, Lazarus. Doctor Droid does, and he says, "I think this would be what humans would call a hard sell. There are some people who would probably start posting on social media saying, if you've been paying attention, this shouldn't come as a surprise. But then there's going to be other people who wholly believe in organized government and that their governments are incorrupt. And this would be a hard pill to swallow for them.
Mm-hmm.
just
But
out of curiosity, you have the list of all the different of the people who are manufacturing, who are involved in the manufacturing of this, say this chip. Yes.
and he looks a little confused. What ship are you speaking
You're
of?
talking about you said, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that they're developing something that they could implant in us, and then that basically that they're working on this idea of having a essentially like a computer chip that basically make every that
Oh, a chip.
can make,
Forgive me, Minute Man. I thought you
yeah,
said chip. No,
yeah.
this is already ongoing with technology. They're looking for a
Mm,
way to network people the same way, for example, phones are
mm.
interconnected.
But you have the list of companies who are involved in this.
Yes, it is literally hundreds of companies that are working on AI currently.
Well, then we have our targets, then, don't we?
If we simply attack these on without if we attack these corporations without any solid evidence, it's unfortunately going to look quite bad for us.
Dentalion
Yeah.
is correct. It may lose
Hmm.
you public support.
Hmm.
Plus, we may not be able to strike at these companies. I imagine they're rather disparate across the globe. We may not be able to attack them quickly enough to make any real impact.
Yeah, I think more of a call out saying like, who even are these people, and a nice little zoom in on that icon of theirs should be helpful. And then we can start kind of going further into it. But um, I personally think that getting into that, working to deter this uh, rain operation is probably goal number one.
Also important to note that rain is meant to eventually be global.
Yeah.
And at that point it will have at its control every organized military group of every Western country.
No, we
And you're saying with this thing, there's no centralized head of rain as of yet.
From what I am looking at, from what I have discovered, I would assume it would be President Jason Withers.
Hmm.
All right, then we gotta deal with him sooner rather than later. But that can't be at this moment. Now we have an interview to get to. Well, me at least.
There is one more development that I need to make you aware of.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, Congresswoman Lynn Halsey Taylor was arrested for giving you material information about the CDF's imminent attack.
Seems they move quickly, and they're well informed.
It's been a few weeks. I was impressed that it happened at all after this time, but
It
that's annoying.
it is very ironic that the congresswoman who has not appeared on any of the lists of corruption that we have, who has never ostensibly taken a bribe or taken money from any interest group, has suddenly been arrested, while the rest of Congress just goes, as you would say, scot free.
Well, we're
It
not
is a
gonna let that happen.
devilish irony to it. You're correct.
And Minuteman, while he's listening to this, he goes, hold on, I just had a thought, Doctor Droid.
Yes, Minuteman.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm understanding how this world's monetary systems works, a lot of it is electronic. Yes,
That is correct.
that would that include the various bribes and kickbacks that these Congress people and every other other people involved in this would they would also a lot of these would be what you would call electronic funds. Yes.
Some of them, but not all.
Do you have access to these? Could you? Is it possible to access these funds with anyone who basically any with your knowledge and anything with your technical skill?
It is possible, technically.
What would happen if these if then what would happen if these various Congress people, these corrupt officials, what if their assets were frozen?
If their assets were frozen, I would imagine that the hostilities would ramp up.
Hmm.
Short
So he's
term,
gonna
anyway.
honor
It would limit their power long term, but
out of character. I gotta step away for a second.
it does remain an option at some point, should we need it.
It would definitely
Attacking
send a message, but at the same time, they would also know that it is one of the supergroups who are doing it.
it would tip our hand as well that we have the capability to use a supercomputer being such as Dr. Droid to do something like that. I believe that should be a card we save for when we need it most.
Their corruption has already been revealed. Some of the populace believe these files that were sent to everyone on Dr. Hope's communication network, but others are resisting that proof and think it was possibly manufactured. Right now, you have local and state governments scrambling to figure out how to litigate this, if at all. They're asking themselves, what do you do when the law is lawless?
So they could go either way.
It could. There is no clear path. No one has ever seen this level of political corruption before. And so it is not exactly clear how they would fight it. They have the process to amend the Constitution through a meeting of states, a convention of states, but trying to get 50 sovereign entities to act in the same manner would be a daunting task. But that is one option available to them. It is not one I believe they will take, however.
Unlikely they would act against their own self-interest like that.
So we can't. So we can. So what you so we're at the moment where we said we can't. So right now, with the way this conspiracy is, if we try to inform it, there's going to be folks who may not believe, even given the amount, and there are some would be welcome it. We can't exactly have a situation. We can't exactly, as you say, I think the term is hack into their account, into these conspirators' account, into these corrupt officials' accounts, and just zero out their assets, because that would just escalate things further. Even though that they would not give any kind of. We also have, and you also have essentially.
To quote Puff Daddy from the film Made, y'all fucking with my money now, and I don't like my money fucked with. if you get the meaning.
I think I do. As colorful, your colorful use of language, I think is very, very understood. Um, so yeah, but I'm trying to see, but it's because the thing is, but that's the thing. I mean, that's still. I mean, in order to do all this, in order to fund this, in order to fund this, what basically essentially a military operation like this, it still would have to cost things. I mean, I don't know about. I'm not sure how this works here, but you still need to, you still needed supplies in order to,
You're
in
talking
order to
about the
wage
wealth of
war.
nations at this point, Minuteman. Any money that we could siphon off would easily be replaced by the wealth of this country and other countries.
No.
Indeed, we can attack their personal wealth, but unfortunately, most of their military operations are funded at a federal level. Without bankrupting the United States, it would be difficult. Not impossible, but difficult.
And unfortunately, there are things that other than corruption and military might that are being paid for by the government, which we might not necessarily want to stop. No, the focus should be on the people.
Many of the resources and shifting of wealth happened before the onset of omnihumans. I believe that when omnihumans emerged in the world, that they all believed it was a threat to what they were planning.
Hmm.
Well, in a way, they made it a threat, regardless of whether it would have been otherwise.
Funny. I wonder if there's I wonder if the advent of omnihumans is actually some kind of defense.
I do have information on Congresswoman Halsey Taylor's whereabouts. She has been moved to a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Through a
Flashback?
decommissioned military base in the desert of Arizona.
I think.
Why there?
I believe she's being guarded before they know what charges to bring it specifically to bring against her, and that they are gathering evidence, but that they want her protected in a way that they feel that omnihumans could not rescue her.
Interesting.
I believe they look at her as a conspirator.
Well,
So she may be of further value.
She
I
possibly
agree.
could be.
Interesting.
Is it common knowledge that the congresswoman has been taken?
It has been released on the newswire this morning. None of the major networks, however, carried it.
Of course. Well, thankfully, they will be carrying something soon.
Also, one of the files I read about the scope of Project Rain was a recent addendum about using omnihumans as part of their force
Mm-hmm.
to infect or to enforce their will upon the rest of the planet along with the CDF. You recall, Lazarus, that one of the architects of MK Ultra
Yeah, I
was
know, right?
meeting with the president. I believe through process of analysis and elimination that the individuals who did sign the registry are being used to become a superpowered division of the CDF.
Good.
Interesting.
Well, we better act fast then. Make sure no one else sign. Make sure as human people sign it as possible.
And I
So
take it some of these, I take it some of these people who signed this registry were previously who were omnihumans with criminal backgrounds prior to the act.
some of them,
Not necessarily.
some of them, but not
Probably,
necessarily, no.
probably
Let's see.
well-meaning people who don't know any better.
Or people who
Yeah.
simply wish to resume some semblance of normal lives.
Or who don't
I
wish
am
to be
wondering.
persecuted by a overreaching, overbearing federal government.
It does make.
Pa-
I wonder. I do. The other thing I do wonder here, Doctor Droid, is do any of these corporations you mentioned that were part of this, do any of them include omni-human research?
Well, there are several think tank research and development divisions within these companies. That is not out of the question. There are several bio firms on there as well.
Hmm.
Companies that make vaccines, companies that make medicine, big pharma, if you will.
Hmm. Because I'm wondering, it's exactly the thing is because it sounds like with the rise of with the omni-humans, everything. You saying that this sounds like it was essentially an accident, it's interference with their plans.
I
But
believe
I'm
that they
wondering,
had this plan before the emergence of omnihumans, and that the emergence of omnihumans is what sparked this recent conflict.
yes.
In the interest of moving our dialogue forward, allow me to recap. As of yesterday, the Omni-Human Security Act is passed, and we are considered terrorists under this new law. The CDF attempted to arrest us, but we were able to repel them. Afterwards, footage of both our battle and the battle with the other super teams emerged, including the key footage of the death of Dynamo, as well as Lazarus's anti-human, pro-omni-human speech.
That is correct.
After that, this morning, we have additional information regarding the rain emblem that was affixed to the CDF armor. It stands for a shadowy conglomerate of politicians and world superpowers that wish to establish a totalitarian government ruling through force.
Yes, a one world government.
Yes. It has likely been in place, or at least plans have been in motion for some time. The emergence of omni-humans have disrupted their plans, and they see omni-humans as a threat.
That is correct.
This shadowy cabal, which Rain, I suppose we should call them, is largely created from the same list of corrupt politicians that we have released to the public.
And
In
other
addition
corrupt
to more.
corrupt officials from around the world. Yes.
In addition, Governor Halsey or not Governor, Congresswoman Halsey has been arrested for aiding us.
That is correct.
And there is an interview later today in which Lazarus will speak regarding this and other issues.
That is correct.
Which issues do you wish to focus on, Lazarus, during this interview? Or if I've missed anything, bring it up now.
No, I think we've covered most of it. Mostly that we were practicing civil disobedience by not signing it. Did we? Does that mean that we get to be flamethrowered for doing that? I don't think anyone will agree. Things did get hectic talking about in regards to the heavy mech soldier, but um, I'm very happy to mention how many times Temperance was nearly put down for just making a shield for protecting us.
Ms. Honada's polling research does show that most of the populace does believe that the government overreached in its attack on you.
Good.
Indeed, it is obvious that they deployed.
I'm happy to point out that more than a few people got to walk away. We didn't arrest them. We didn't take them in for questioning. They're not held up in the tower. They got to walk home and go back to their family.
Indeed.
And in the coming days, anybody can just go up and just leave the Omni-Humans alone. Go home. Go back to where you're from. You know, you're not going to be arrested for doing this.
Public perception does appear that, for the most part, with some exceptions, we have been the victim so far. Though public opinion is divided, for the most part, it appears to be in our favor. Or at least, maybe not the most part, but there seems to be a large, or a sizable percentage.
And Gail, who's there with you, she speaks up and says, while the polling does show support for us in that the government did overreach and that they don't agree with the president's actions and the Omni Human Safety Act. The populace did not like seeing the death of U.S. military.
Well, that is obvious. So how can we mitigate this? What do you plan to say, Lazarus, in order to influence those who are against us or who are perhaps undecided? These words will be important. You should consider them carefully.
I guess I try to point them in our shoes, or maybe give a historic example. Imagine the government showing up to your home one day and telling you that they are going to be keeping a better eye on you. They're going to have your name, have all of your information down. They're going to keep an eye on you. And if you aren't doing things that they want you to do, then here come the tanks and the heavy mechs.
I
So
believe this tactic will not be sufficient.
no,
Unfortunately, many people already give up their information freely through the use of the technology these days.
yeah, but
They're not as worried about that as they were. And many more are willing to give up more of their freedom
local
in
government.
exchange for security. They're
Just
afraid.
out of curiosity, by the way, if I may interject, what were their names?
And he gives you the names. I'm
ones-
not going to come up with names just on the fly.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, at least you can do is mention these fallen soldiers by name.
I
It
could
is
do that.
regrettable that it happened, but it was perhaps in a sense. I would say that you regret that it happened, but not that you regret your actions specifically.
That sounds better. I regret the I
That it
regret
was
the
necessary.
situation that it got to that point, but I don't regret. But I would be lying if I said I wouldn't do it again. The people, let's. Maybe I should just go with stand your ground. Like, the government doesn't get to do whatever they want to me, to us. They don't get to just choose. You're doing this now. I
Indeed,
didn't vote
Lazarus,
for
even
them.
as you're talking about it, uh,
Hmm.
just because of your background, you've got an insane amount of knowledge in your brain. Um, you would know that the Constitution that guides the U.S., when it was originally formed, was something that the rest of the world had never seen before because it specifically limited what government could do to its
Hmm.
citizens, while other countries are like, yeah, this is what's against the law, and we'll add more later.
Hmm.
But it was remarkable and revolutionary for its limits that it put on government, and it seems now, especially after you've already been attacked and you're discussing with your friends, this is this is at odds with how the country was formed.
Hmm. This is why the U.S. is how it is. I didn't choose to have a on the Human Registration Act. I didn't choose uh, to bring tanks over to make sure people were complying. Uh, the government doesn't get to decide that. They're trying to decide it. Don't let them, because they're going to decide that, and they're going to decide a lot more for you.
Yes, it should be easier if you use the tactic of simply preying on people's natural distrust of the government. If you can increase that, it may convince more people to come to our side, that the government is against them, and that we are doing our best to
I
protect
like
them
that.
and fight this injustice. There are many systemic injustices inherent in the United States. This is simply one more that weighs on the neck of the people as a millstone.
But at least they get to have front row seats to see it.
I believe we've attacked the argument both logically, ethically, and emotionally.
Hmm.
At the very least, you should be prepared for the questions they throw at you.
I'll be ready. Anything else?
And
Well,
Minuteman, or not Minuteman, but Dr. Droid looks at you, Lazarus, and says, One other thing, while I have been briefing you this morning, I have given the same briefing simultaneously to Vigilance and to the sentries in Chicago. Pioneer has indicated that he would like to speak to you. Are you amenable to hearing from Pioneer?
Sure. Yeah. Bring him in. All you guys can hear.
And so Pioneer, you see a holographic image of him appear next to Dr. Droid. And he says, and he seems a little grim. Normally he's kind of, he's a little flippant and kind of nonchalant, but now he seems super pissed.
Yeah, he's vigilant, right? So
Right.
he lost his he lost people.
And behind him, you can see now a crowd of people. There's a somber procession. He's addressing you from inside, the motorcade for Dynamo's funeral. And he's sitting in a limousine, but you can see, people outside of there holding up signs, about Dynamo and everything. And he says, "Forgive me if I'm not as jovial as I normally am, but it is good to see all of you alive and well. I've been
Like,
I have been speaking with Dr. Droid this morning. He's been debriefing me on everything awful that our government's been planning. I have decided that you guys are woefully unarmed for the days ahead. I mean, I know you guys get around in a limo and that looks cool, but you're going to need the ability to get around the country probably a little bit faster. Lazarus, I know you also have a private jet and a helicopter, but... And he thinks for a moment and he says, why not make the government that's taken so much of our money throughout our lives, why not make them pick up the check? And he smiles and says, my team has recovered a troop transport vertical takeoff jet from Rain. It
Oh
came
my goodness, an osprey.
It came after the battle in which Dynamo was killed. I am having it sent over to your building, and we will leave it on the helicopter pad.
He does a little math in his head, like, yeah, that'll hold it. Perfect.
Give
Thank you.
us a couple of hours. Dr. Droid is going to assist us. Dr. Droid nods, and he says, I'm actually here in New York right now, Lazarus.
Yeah,
I will fly the craft back.
I appreciate that, Pioneer, and I wanted to mention, sorry for your loss. It's a sacrifice, and it will not be in vain. I can promise you
yes,
that.
you have our condolences.
And he nods very solemnly and goes, that means a lot to me. Thank you both very much. And good luck in the times to come. We'll all stay connected.
All right.
And with that, he blips out. So you're getting a new ride.
Hell yeah.
Yay!
Osprey. Is that an osprey or is it just
Well,
'cause when I think VTOL troop transport,
it's Osprey-like.
Osprey light.
It's faster
Osprey-esque.
for plot purposes.
This is
Right, yeah.
this. It hasn't arrived yet, but this is what it's going to look like. This is, of
Oh,
course,
maybe it's
before you've tricked it out.
yeah.
It's not armed in any capacity, but it's got certain capabilities that
So I will put a big Vanguard V on the side.
Pioneer
sure-
will
I'm
let
Yeah.
Dr. Droid explain at some
Like a
point.
Hey, do you give it a new paint? Give it a new paint job. At least, hey, it's one more thing. At least Minuteman would have to try to come up with a way of try to
you go.
teleport everybody. Well, wait, would that even work? For
No.
the
No.
No, Minuteman's get.
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
a couple
not-
times where
do
you
not
go
try to teleport
wildly
me
off the
with-
map with what you can actually do.
Do not teleport
Yeah.
with time powers. You're going to bring me back like a week, and I'm gonna be like a week past where the Earth was, and then just
Oh, you're gonna be
Yeah,
floating
right.
in space, yeah.
Well, yeah, like because technically, guy would be on the road while going.
You have to move through space and
Yeah.
time to do that.
Well, they are interconnected, so there is that. But anyway, no, but he says
A generous gift.
It's like, well, I think we know. I think we know about how we're going to handle it in terms of like Lazarus the media thing. However, we are going to need some kind of we need some kind of we need some kind of battle plan.
Yes. Follow-up question.
Yeah, we are in a war. We are in a war situation essentially.
Does anyone know how to fly a plane?
And Miniman's
We'll
like,
figure that out later. We'll figure that out later.
I'm like, yeah, you're looking at the wrong person.
That's fine. Anyways, so we'll save that for after this interview. All right. There'll be much room for strategizing. I do think that our Congresswoman should be free for her actions, and this Arizona base might actually be important for Rain, so might be able to knock out two birds. Go help Halsey and go make sure the Rain knows that their time is numbered.
Perhaps they were right to fear omnihumans.
And Dr. Droid looks at you, Lazarus, and says, I will alert you when I have arrived back at Heyman Tower with the new craft.
Perfect.
Good luck. And he vanishes. All right. Is there anything you guys want to talk about before Lazarus goes off to his interview?
And then Miniman goes, there may be a way I can try to learn how to fly one, but it's going to take time.
Knew you
I'm
were
not
going
sure
to
if I
say
can
that.
do it. What?
Of course, it was going to take time.
What I could do.
That's your thing.
What I could do is I would have to somehow be able to repeat the same day over and over again for myself.
Well, don't hurt yourself.
I mean, it may take a while, but I mean, I could possibly do it. I don't know if that's even possible for me.
Perhaps we could simply hire a pilot.
That would probably be easier.
I mean, you do have an advanced AI at your disposal.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Indeed,
yeah.
we could integrate, Dr. Droid into the
Yeah,
navigation.
yeah, just have it be just have it like an automatic autopilot. Oh, okay, yeah.
I do have a question. Do we wish to maintain Heyman Tower as our headquarters? Our enemy knows where we'll be. They could simply send more attacks whenever they're able to regroup.
I mean, we could start flying, and that can be our headquarters.
It's unlikely this jet will be large enough to serve as long-term headquarters for us.
And I'd be hesitant putting too much putting too much time in the air in the airspace owners of basically the Western Hemisphere.
It's true. They have many jets at their disposal.
Yeah.
Don't you have any other kind of facilities besides this building, Dr. Lazarus?
Let's see.
Dr. Lazarus, you do, in fact, have many facilities.
Any old data centers?
You know what? Make me a resource feat.
I'd love to. Well, let me open up my sheet. Resource is a healthy, remarkable.
So put that into the universal table. All right, you got a yellow result. Yeah, you do. You have one. You have kind of an abandoned call center
Mm-hmm.
that is on the outskirts of town,
Mm-hmm.
further to the north.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got an upper level. But when this building was built, it was built in an area that was positioned where the water table wasn't so high up. So you built it down into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the only place in Florida you could do that.
Probably the only place. That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
This
Only one building and you got it.
Quick point of trivia. This is why if you go to the Haunted Mansion in Florida, you're not actually going underground like you do in Disneyland. Disneyland, when you go into the Haunted Mansion, there's, you go into the foyer, into the stretchy paintings room, and you're actually being lowered down into the ground.
Yep.
In Florida, they can't do that because of the water table.
Yeah.
Oh.
They raise the room around you, right?
So that you can, because it's funny, Haunted Mansion is technically in Disneyland is outside of the berm.
It is, yeah.
They have to lower you down to walk across the hallway to outside the park.
So, Yeah, it's to answer your question, Rick. Yeah, in Florida, the stretchy room the room itself just goes up, but you stay right where you are, and then you just go past the doors
Yeah,
and
it's a clever bit of engineering.
into the same level that you're on.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of what you have out there. It was called the Northern Facility.
You have the only basement in all of Florida.
You think it would take some doing, but you think you could probably, move it would take you a while, but you could probably do it. And not in a Minuteman timey-wimey while, an actual while. Like it's going to take at least 6 weeks.
Got it. We'll see after this. We'll see after this interview. I think that's a great idea to move. Um, just so we're less here, and maybe Gail can maybe work elsewhere, just so we can have no one at this big target we've made.
And
I also
Gail looks over at you, Lazarus, and she says, "If the object is to uh, set up a headquarters in a less obvious environment, I'll point out that it is still listed as an asset of yours,
Mm,
so the government would know about the location. I would suggest at least selling it to a shell company first,
there we go.
so
perhaps
that
have Dr. Droid backdate the sale.
it's something he could do. I think Gail says.
Perfect.
That way it looks less
I'll let
suspicious.
Dr. Droid know to set up a company and sell it to I don't know, pick
Sell it,
somebody.
sell it to yourself.
There you go. Sell it to just Gail, do you want it? You can have it. Done.
Thank you,
No, they check yours. Sorry.
thank you. I will be a fair and kind landlord.
I
Of course.
believe make a fake company, call it Vanguard, like a van security system.
There.
They'll never look there.
And she looks at you,
But
Lazarus, and she goes, I would never do that.
speaking of Gail, I believe you should also perhaps consider moving some of your leadership positions at your companies to her. It's possible the government may try to freeze your personal assets.
I
And
guess
to avoid
we'll.
crippling your company, I think appointing Gail to as a temporary CEO would mitigate some of that.
Yeah, that's not a terrible idea. Gail, I've been playing superhero for the past couple months. I would be lying if I said that I didn't notice that, you know, a lot of the work and meetings still got done, even though I wasn't there. Obviously, that means someone's been doing it. Someone's been carrying the weight for me. Um, I
And
think the
she smiles
task
and nods.
I think the task is in safe hands if I um, move things over to you for now, at least until you know things are a lot more quiet. Maybe after a term limit, who knows?
I will. I'll make the necessary communications to the rest of your companies.
Good to hear, and you know I'm
But
sure I'm very confident that it's in good hands.
I will
I would also
also handle the board.
Oh yeah. And if there's any issues, just let me know.
I will.
Like there are more helicopters to throw board members into. That I feel way less bad about.
Oh my god.
I believe we should also take steps to protect your personal finances as well.
Dr. Droid's in elbow deep in my finances already. So if there's any big changes, I'm sure he'll let us know.
Very well.
I can see this whole group come April when it's tax season.
Uh-huh.
Sending in like W-2 forms that say "F off."
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay. I submit my taxes directly to hell.
No, you gotta do that right, or they're gonna come in. That's how they got Al Capone. So we may be criminal insurgents, but we do our taxes.
Yeah, the newest government superhero, the tax man.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's coming to
No,
deduct your life.
he heads the civil defense force.
All right,
Terrifying.
so Lazarus, the time finally comes, and Gail notifies you that if you want to get to the studio on time, you would have to leave now.
I'll get going. I'll also include a. I'll make sure to get some of the video that's um part of the some of the video evidence, and like have a nice little zoom in on my phone of the rain icon, just so I can pop it up for dramatic effect.
Okay.
But I am ready.
All right.
Good luck, Dr. Lazarus.
So you guys watch from the Heyman Tower on Channel 7 as Lazarus
Hmm.
enters the studio and is interviewed by Allison Horowitz. Allison's looking at the camera and says, well, to say the events of the last few days have been tumultuous would be an understatement. Here with us in studio now is Dr. Hope, aka Lazarus, here to talk a little bit about his side of the altercation that occurred several days ago. Dr. Lazarus, welcome to Channel 7.
Thank you so much, Allison. And it's just Lazarus. I appreciate you guys having me on here. Hello, everybody. I've wanted to start off by saying I want to offer my condolences out to first Dynamo. She's an omni-human up in NYC who lost her life recently, and I want to make sure that her name is stated down here.
Yes, we've been covering her funeral this morning. Did you know Dynamo?
I had met Dynamo previously, a couple about a couple weeks back. It's a small world living in Omni world, living with Omni humans. We like to mingle and get to know one another, really understand the community that we're a part of, and the loss hits a lot of people. I actually just was on the phone with Pioneer earlier this very day while they're in their procession. uh, it's it's tragic. It's tragic, and it's a death that couldn't have been avoided.
And she thinks for a moment and she says, yes, recent polling indicates that a third of the populace looks at the events of the last several days and sees it as a government overreach. What is your opinion?
Well, with that third of the population, I have to very much agree. Um, I've gotten to um, do a little bit of soul searching to make sure that we're in the right space here with our decisions and all that such. And a lot of the conversations includes conversations with Minuteman, a revolutionary soldier at the time of the birth of the United States, and it really kind of gets back to the core of what is America, and America is set of people who have gone out of their way above and beyond to um, no longer be oppressed by their government. We had people who sailed across the Atlantic Ocean for religious freedom. We had um, people of all races, creeds, and ideologies come here to make a new living. That's the American dream, to start over and own your own life. And the biggest core of that is the government not getting in your way, of not going to you and saying no. The What happened at Heyman Tower um, was the government doing exactly that. Them saying you can't do this. We're going to do it how we want to, not how you want to. The the world is trying to go against that, trying to say how um, trying to say how we should be living our lives, how we should be um, doing as they want, and that's not what America's about. We're here because we wanted to not be held down, not be pushed back, not to be oppressed by our government. And right now, I can't say that isn't happening.
And she
When
thinks
we
for
were
she thinks for a
when we
moment, but she says, "Do you look at what happened at Heyman Tower as an act of self-defense? Certainly, you were fired upon first. but at that point, the government troops that had arrived believed you were in violation of the law. There's a lot of nuances here, but our figured I'd give you a chance to let our viewers hear from you.
I wouldn't. He, he kind of thinks for a moment, and he'll say, um, "What happened started with uh, what I believe is a God-given right of each of these citizens, civil disobedience, being able to say, no, we're not going to follow these exorbitant, oppressive laws, and um, not signing a paper led to gunfire, tanks being rolled in, and attack helicopters. The uh, I would I even I'm what I would call this incident is I'm sorry, I was just trying to think for a second. What I would
Please take
call
your
this
time.
Yeah, what I would call this incident the is the government stepping too far. Them taking that step across the line and pushing us um, where we shouldn't be pushed. The mistakes that they're making are leading to tragic losses that I regret having to have to make.
Do you put the blame for Dynamo's death fully on the government and the president?
He's gonna lean forward a little bit, make sure he speaks clearly, and says, "The death of on the humans from here on out is on the hands of the U.S. government. Dynamo is a loss that should not have happened, and it is because of this government that um, these goons are running around in mech armor, um, hurting people, gravely hurting people. Allison, you were there. I'm sure you saw um, how battered we got and how close we were to being lost. We could have been having a motorcade to Temperance um, just today
And
if it wasn't for how things went down.
Allison nods emphatically.
And
We were in
and
fact there, and I, you could ask our cameraman who was there. I gasped when I saw them use flamethrowers on you.
exactly all this power to try and push us down, try to push us past that line, and it's really tragic. But honestly, like something I gotta say, Allison, I'm not sure if you know who even are these people here. He's gonna like try and like if you have a phone or if there's like um the recording going on behind him, he'll like kind of point at like one of the Mexicos at the symbol and say like, "Who is even are these guys?" Like, we've been looking into this. Like, they're not army. They're not the Marines, the Air Force,
Well,
Space Force.
they're the Civil Defense Force, per the president's explanation in his executive order before the legislation was signed. He did say he was setting up the Civil Defense Force, which was a wing of the Army and the other armed forces, to basically enforce this new
But
law.
but taking a closer look here, like look at this symbol, this like rain or whatever. You know, if they were setting up this force, like trust me, I've been in manufacturing. It takes a year to make a cell phone, and they got mech suits running around after a week of us being iffy on the um on the Human Registration Act. Something isn't adding up, Allison.
And you see her talking into her headpiece for a moment, and then the monitor behind you, like the large screen behind you, or behind them, behind all of you, back here is
Mhm.
a close up of the symbol that you're talking about, where it says rain and it has a planet ringed with stars.
Yeah, I'd be keeping an eye on that because this is very concerning. Where the government is coming out with um, soldiers from some company that no one's ever heard of, and saying, "Oh yeah, we're here to fight on the humans," when on the humans haven't existed 2 months ago.
That is a good argument that you make. I believe this was something I hadn't seen before. I didn't notice this in any of our footage, but now that you've brought it to our attention, I'll. It's definitely something I'll start looking into.
It's very concerning indeed, and I hope to hear some clarity from the U.S. government on what exactly this is and what kinds of people are they trying to send this to. We are uh, uh, this situation does not need to have any more loss of life, and
And
especially or even loss of stature. Have you heard about Congresswoman Halsey?
yes, yes, that came across the wire this morning. There's actually video of her arrest. She was giving remarks in the Capitol Rotunda
Hmm.
about Dynamo's death. Actually, we have it. Let's go ahead and play that. And she, obviously she's talking to the people in the control
Hmm.
booth, and you see one of the monitors in the studio that they've broken in, to, or that they're playing video of her from this morning, where she's talking about the tragic loss of Dynamo, and
Hmm.
how she was also aware of the attack that was made in her district against Vanguard, and she said she's very she's grieving for Dynamo's family, whoever they are, and that she reiterates none of this had to happen. This was all poorly executed by the president and this overreaching Congress. And as she says that, she says, "That's all I have. Thank you." She turns around and then immediately is arrested.
Goodness,
And
that's just not right. That's just breaching of freedom of speech.
so she comes back to, you're back in the studio now. And she looks at you, Allison does, and she says, "Well, from what we're hearing, the charges include treason. She's accused of having given some sort of communication or forewarning to one of the supergroups about what the CDF was planning. Of course, this is all unverified. It's all breaking news this morning. We don't have any way to verify, any charges against her. But that's what we've heard this morning."
Well, I'd love to hear her side of the story, Allison. Um, this these attacks against on the humans, they can't they can't go unaccounted without accountability. If they're just throwing treason around at anyone asking questions, at anyone looking twice, then who knows what else is going to happen.
Well, we know that you went to college with the president, and he's mentioned you in his memoir as being a friend back then. Has the president reached out to you in any way since all this happened, or do you want to say anything to him this morning while you're here?
Rogers kind of shakes his head and all that such, and will look directly at the camera and says, "It doesn't have to be this way, sir. It's it's painful for everybody. Let's let's not. Let's
And oh, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
yeah." He says, "Let's not. Let's come together, just so there's nobody else gets hurt, and beyond the humans of the U.S. are treated with the respect that they deserve."
And then she looks over at you and says, "Speaking of omnihumans, and we had talked about this previously before you came in. We do want to address the." And she thinks for a moment, the speech or manifesto that you gave, that the government released footage of during that fight, where you made a distinction between omnihumans and humans. And well, let's just play the clip. And she plays the clip of that moment, where you had
Yeah,
killed the three servicemen by throwing the mech into the chopper and everything, and then you did your Magneto thing. Um, and then the clip ends, and the camera's right on you.
perfect. And Lazarus kind of coolly responds, says, "This is a very stressful moment for everybody. Um, those words come from a very deep place inside of me. omnihumans are being dealt with are dealing with a very different situation than before. We once were exactly like you, Allison, just like every other human, and now we are facing persecution because we are different. Uh, I uh, I see a future where that distinction does not have to be made very often, if at all. Uh, but until then, I am happy to say how proud I am of being an on the human. I'd never go back, ever, and I will make sure that every on the human in the U.S. is taken care of and is treated with respect and fairness that their fellow humans have.
And she nods and she says, "Well, thank you for coming in and speaking with us. Is there anything you wanted to tell our viewers and the nation? Any final words?"
You'll say, just remember, some the humans, we were just like you. And even after the changes, even after the powers, he'll kind of float up a little bit, if that's allowed. And he'll say, we still are. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you, Dr. Lazarus. And we'll be back after these messages. And then you see the camera light go off, so you know that you hear the floor director says, "And break."
Perfect.
And then she
I'll,
looks at you and says, "Thanks once again for coming and speaking with us. We appreciate it."
thank you for having me, Allison. I do have to say, after these couple months, I I'm very happy that we have a reporter as diligent as you. If we happen ourselves on unaired gunfire, I'll make sure you're there to see it.
Well, I've seen the good that you and your team can do, so good luck. I'm pulling for you guys.
Thank you so much.
And she smiles.
We'll keep in touch.
All right. So we're gonna go back to the HQ where Lazarus is not right now. Neither Lazarus nor Gale. I would assume Gale went to the studio with Dr. Lazarus. So yeah, you guys just watch that. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
There you go. Like, he fucked it up. Fuck.
I think he did rather well.
I do
Oh,
agree that I think he did a good job.
but I was also, I mean, I will say though that, I mean, again, I'm looking at from a as a soldier standpoint here. I mean, I would have based. I mean, I think it was the thing is about. I mean, he could have mentioned a little bit more condolences of the soldiers who did lost their lives in both in that engagement. But I think he did well considering, and I did think he and I think he did did well. Still, and the
Agree. I
Minuteman
think
kind of
he
thinks
should
also.
give in more condolences to the.
Was it just me or was anyone else kind of unnerved by what he said in that heat of the moment during the battle?
It
Yeah, no,
is
I was.
potentially symptomatic of a dangerous method of thinking.
What were you
I
saying,
think
See,
he
Scripture?
went a
here's the
little
thing.
crazy there.
Hang on. Let's let Scripture finish her thought. You guys keep talking over her. Scripture, please go.
I think he went a little crazy there. I think he was just in the throes of madness because his life was keep on being threatened and he keeps on getting hit. He's watching all of us get hurt. But I
Here's the
also
thing.
see that
Yeah,
what he said was very problematic at best.
here's the thing. It isn't so much that the fact that he, you know, you know, killed those soldiers that problem. Again, self-defense. What's problematic is what he said in that speech could get ammunition to the very folks who drafted this legislation in the first place. Obviously, we don't want to have a situation. They should, do uh, do I disagree with the merits of having us being, essentially treating us like we are something to be, as almost as dare I say second class because of our abilities? Sure, but nevertheless, when the dust all settles, how do we there is of course an old saying of essentially, I believe it is, I don't know, I don't even know the Latin, but it is who watches the watchman, so to speak. Who is we need to I think we need to suggest an alternative. It's not just, I mean, granted, we here we are using our powers for for common cause to help protect those who cannot protect themselves and to fight those who are lawbreakers and criminals. But we also see that there are omni-humans who have been using their abilities for nefarious ends.
So, what is your concern? That after everything's said and done, we're just trading one corrupt system of government for another?
That could be possible. The idea, because we need to have, I mean, I'm not saying we should leave it, the government, because there needs to be some sort of way of addressing. I mean, there are going to be omni-humans who, let's face it, are going to use their abilities, and we've seen this before the legislation was passed. Who are using their abilities to basically, you know, essentially their natural impulses. Take a case in point. How many omni-humans have used their powers for their own nefarious hands compared to those who are using them for, like us? How many, for lack of a better word, how many more? How what is the what is the breakdown between superheroes and supervillains? Are there more supervillains than there are superheroes?
I imagine the CDF will have data on that before long.
Right, but that is the concern. And that because there are people who probably who give these gifts who who the moment they discover them are not using them for the greater good. They're using it to basically to hurt to hurt others.
So, do you believe perhaps that functions like the Omni-Human Security Act may possibly need to be amended, not just repealed?
That could be, I believe so, and I believe there could be. There need to be some. When the dust settles, there needs to be some kind of. I mean, there needs to be some. I mean, this nation, these United States, based on what I know, they came to it. They settled to it. They settled on they built on a series of compromises, checks and balances. No one power should basically be greater than the other. We need to do when it comes to when it comes to us omni humans, we need to do the same. Whether it be some kind of way of basically, I'm not saying to have it all of us govern ourselves, but there need to be some checks and balances in place.
There needs to be some rules, but I have to put in this little point of there's always bad people. That's why there's laws.
Agreed.
And I
I'm
feel
just
like
worried. I'm
even
just
if we are omni humans, we should still be judged by some of those laws.
indeed, but what my concern is more so is the fact that what Lazarus, and I didn't want to say anything, he may by his little, call it what you will, his loss of control, his anger, that speech of his has given justification for the they're going to use that speech as given justification for the very reason the registration act was put in place.
There is a
And we need to
possibility that it may become galvanizing to those who wish to use their abilities to lash out at the government, who feel that they are perhaps oppressed. It may send the wrong message to those people.
Yes. What I'm saying is, in order to combat against that, we need to basically offer we could, rather than just basically, oh, get rid of these, rather than the registration act and then go back to the way things were. I think that is impossible. We need to come up with we can come up, well, rather, come up with an alternative solution, come up with an alternative, amend these laws, so to say, to essentially work out maybe some kind of governing body or something like that. Basically, a basic an office of, maybe not as so stringent as it required mandatory registration, but at least something, because
That's fine. We register all
You're not
regular
there.
You're
humans.
not even here.
You're
Get
not
off
there.
speakerphone. Get off the phone. You're in the middle of an interview. It's disrespectful.
I'm on the drive back. No, I'm kidding.
You just hold my blanket while I fix it while we're talking.
Register the human.
Well, I believe that there is logic in what you say. However, I strongly believe that this is a situation where it's a war of extremes. Unfortunately, a moderate solution is not going to be popular.
Yeah,
That I do. That I do agree with.
I feel
But
like you gotta recognize the fact that even humans can be evil. So that person, ergo, there are evil omni-humans, and there's laws for a reason. They shouldn't be able to murder people, no robbing, stuff like that, and there should be some respect for people. The omni-humans are trying to do good.
mhm.
It seems we're not
I
quite unified, both Lazarus and the rest of our team, on what our end goal should be.
well, I do agree. Well, I do agree with one. I do agree that we do have to root out we do have to go against rain. We do need to come up with some kind of battle plan to go because there is something more going on here than just essentially with this omni-human. Like Dr. Drove was saying. This seems to be something that they've been working on for a while, even before the rise of omni-humans.
However, consider this. A lot of the names on that list, the list of corrupt politicians, are similarly those that have ties to rain. It's likely that if we deal with one problem, or if we deal with the problem of rain, it'll be much easier to find a compromise for the Omni-Human Security Act.
Agreed. I think that rain should be our primary. I think our primary. That is we that is our that is really that is our true enemy.
Once we fix that problem, we can focus back on being a voice for change in the laws for
Mm-hmm.
omni-humans that want to break the law. But first, we have to make it safe for all of us.
Yes. Hmm.
Indeed,
The
this will
only
be
thing is,
interesting.
the only thing is that there's a way. If there was some way we could go back, some way that to look at the how because rain didn't this rain did not this it must have taken this sounds like this took years in the making.
I would believe
There has
that,
to be
yes.
there has to been some sort of first cause or something. If there was a way we could somehow untangle this
There,
this
there usually isn't
web and
a
this.
cause for these things. There usually isn't a cause. It's just corrupt people wanting more power, and to gain more power is to gain more control over the populace.
Hmm.
That's likely correct.
Yes, but
I
somebody had
wish
to.
it
But
were that
some. But
simple.
there had. But the fact is, there needs a, well the the fact that they came up with a symbol for it.
Yes, they're organized at the very least. They have a
When you got
graphic
There
designer.
is an organizational structure at work. It's not just a bunch of haphazard folks who decide who just decide to randomly come together. There was something there was people perhaps very similar to, I hate to use this comparison, a Continental Congress who got together and came up with the foundations for this.
Yes.
And hired a graphic designer.
Can't you
Yes.
They have a logo.
Listen, usually they got like a graphic design cousin who does graphic design on the side, and they're just like, design this and forget it.
Dr. Lazarus.
Yes,
Oh, he's
Lazarus,
on the
you're here.
phone.
Lazarus, yeah, Lazarus, you and Gail are back now.
Oh, hooray! I'm here.
Welcome back.
How'd it go? Did I get my good sign?
Of course, they
You
always
did
make them do
you
that.
did rather well.
I
Yes.
made sure to have my good side facing the camera when I threw the heavy mech. I think that was priority. Anyways, so um, that went well. I think I planted some good seeds in there. They're gonna be looking. People are gonna say, "Who is the rain people?" Allison seems great. All right.
Allison's always great.
Now that
Interesting enough, we were
I
just
do
talking
not like
about
her.
rain.
But you're a dick sometimes, so it makes sense you don't like her.
Look, she's elbow deep in the media, and let me tell you, before
She's
all this
doing her
stuff,
job.
before all this stuff, I could have told you that the media was, biased towards, certain parties and all that such. Now I got a concrete proof, and you know, I'm not that surprised.
Concrete is a stretch, I think.
Yeah. Anyways, so once once the jet gets here, um, as long as Dr. George can fly it, I say we go get Halsey out.
I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, we need our congressman. We need our people.
All right, and as you say that, Dr. Droid appears in the center of the room in the holograph area and says, "Your jet has arrived."
Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Miss.
Can you? Are the controls accessible to you, Dr. Droid?
Yes, they are.
Okay, good. All right.
Would
Well,
be interesting
everybody,
to see how he
let's
flew
go,
it here if it wasn't.
Let's go get that set up. And hopefully, when we come back, we have a nice, cozy, abandoned call center to return to. I hope you guys aren't too married to your cozy apartments here.
I'm gonna miss my Disney setup though.
Oh, I'm sure we can find a Mickey Mouse air mattress at Walmart.
I wouldn't mind that.
Cool.
Just make sure that the tower keeps safe so that all my collectibles don't get destroyed.
Dr. Droid, there you go.
Yeah, we got a call from the CDF. We have your collectibles. Surrender now, or they'll be destroyed, or they'll be sold on
Oh
eBay.
my god!
The monsters.
They don't make half those anymore.
I'm throwing them into the helicopter now.
All right, and that is
All
a
right.
good place for us to end.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I
I can't wait to play a character with low charisma, so I literally am not allowed to talk.
Right?
Great, Madam Leona Sipper.
It's a little daunting, yeah, to have to represent the party.
You pointed at that dude and you said, "That's who I want to play."
agree. No.
Yep.
I love doing that. I just hate having the spotlight on me all the time.
Yeah.
So
He
next
likes
character,
to share the spotlight.
next character, I'm allowing myself one sentence of background just so I can't be too ingrained in everything. So
you want me to make your character and you make mine? We'll make that work.
you don't want me
That'd
to
be very
have
funny.
that power. You have a 5-page paragraph backstory, a 5-page backstory. There will be NPCs, and your character will be morally gray. I promise you that.
I will do it.
Good.
All right. Speaking of morally gray, I'm going to go ahead and hit the sheets.
Sounds
So
good.
everyone say good night to everybody watching on YouTube and also to Barrymore, who's watching us on Twitch. Good night,
Good night.
Barrymore.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, you guys. We will see y'all, I hope, next week.
Bye,
Oh, yes.
YouTube.
All right. Later, y'all.
Yep.